And we're live, guys. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yay. It's
One of these
time.
things is not like the other. Is that the Sesame Street thing?
Yeah. My version. Yep. So,
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. So, as first of all, thank you guys for being here. As you are joining us, please let us know in the comments that you're here. We'd love to know that you're here with us. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and have Dee and Michelle talk a little bit about their channels just while we're waiting for more people to join us.
sure. So, you want to go ahead, Dee, or?
Ladies first.
Okay. My name is Michelle. My channel is Literary Me. I started on BookTube with a channel called Literally Me, but then just because I wasn't sure where I was going to go with it, but when I decided to focus on books, I changed it to Literary Me, and I love to read everything. There, I won't say no to any book, really. I'll read pretty much anything. I like to talk about all kinds of books on my channel, and maybe put a spotlight on lesser known authors or less popular books sometimes if I can, if I find something I like. Because if I like it, then probably somebody else will too. So yeah, that's about I've been on since about January, I think, or something like that. So it's super fun. Really enjoying it. And I've met people like Isabel and Dee by doing BookTube. So it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dee from the Reading Room. I also started my channel pretty sure January, February. And I just like reading, and I don't have my circle of friends. I just don't have people that read that I can talk books with about. So just kind of like Michelle, and I'm pretty sure like Isabella, you read something, you want to share it. And BookTube's just that a great place for that. So that's literally the only reason I have a channel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And my channel is Isabel Reads, and I love talking about books. I can do this all day long, which I kind of do since I do teach English. I get to talk about books all day long, and I loved watching booktubers so much that I wanted to be a part of that. And I really feel like a lot of who I am as a reader, as an adult, after I started watching YouTube, was influenced by a lot of what people online were reading, and what booktubers were excited about. And I wanted to kind of do that for other people, so that's kind of why I decided to join. And I also joined around February, so pretty new channel as well, like Michelle. But I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and meeting people has been pretty much like the highlight, like getting to bond with a lot of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. So that's a lot of fun.
For sure.
All right. So if you're here with us, just kind of say hi so we can say hello back and we can know who's joining us. But you're definitely here to hear more about our takes on the Tenant. So if either Dee or Michelle, if any of you want to give like a little summary maybe on the Tenant, so in case some people haven't read it, what is this book all about?
Okay. Well, Dee, you can go ahead. You're the Freida Mcfadden aficionado there. You know all about her.
I will have a restraining order at some point in time from trying to meet this woman. Throwing that out.
You're the super fan.
It's actually a relatively simple plot. A gentleman loses his job and can't afford his brownstone, so they take on a roommate, a tenant, him and his fiance. And what can't go wrong when you just invite somebody you don't know into your house? And I don't know. I mean, it's a very simplistic plot for a Freida Mcfadden book, but him and the tenant immediately seem like they're going to get along, and then they start butting heads, and it spirals in a way that only Freida Mcfadden can make it spiral to a point. And what is interesting about this book is the way she. Okay, so the story is told from the viewpoint of I've already forgotten the main guy's name, Blake. So and it's the first time, I guess, that she's written a male character in depth like this.
Yeah.
So the story starts from Blake's point of view, why they've had to invite a tenant in, their first interactions. It goes right up to the twist, and then the narrative swaps to the person that the twist is involved in. And this is what she did in the Housemaid books. That's the writing style of the Housemaid books. She goes with the main person, gets you up to the oh crap moment of the book, and then flips it, and then when she goes to the next person, they're filling in gaps, and then they're moving the story along, and then it resumes with the main character's point of view, Blake, and how it all resolves and hands up and goes. Again, for a Freida Mcfadden plot, it really simplistic.
Yeah, which now that you mentioned that, D, I felt like that first twist or the big twist or whatever, like it took a while for us to get there. I don't know if you guys felt that way too. Because I'm used to her having like a couple twists early on, and I felt like we didn't really have one, so that was a little bit different, right, from her other books.
Yeah, I marked the first plot twist with the orange tab, and as you can see, it's quite far into the book. So yeah. That was
okay. I'm going to remember that for future reads. I'm going to pick a color, post-it note, and when the plot twist happens, start throwing them in there.
Yeah.
Shell method.
It's very strategic. My flag's in here.
I did enjoy it being from a male POV, since you did bring that up, D. It's the first time, I think, of all the ones I've read that we had that male POV, and I thought it was interesting. And I also saw in her comments afterward that she was thanking like her husband for, kind of being a sounding board, because like she wanted to make sure that this is something a man would say, and her husband was like, a man would never say that, so she had to like kind of rework a little bit of that, because it was her first time kind of writing a male protagonist.
And that's really impressive to me when an author does that, when they write the opposite sex really convincingly like that. So, and as far as the plot, it is very simplistic, like at the outside, but you get that desperation from, he's lost his job. Now, how am I going to pay the bills? And we're living in this place, and I don't want to be homeless, and I don't want my wife to be homeless. So taking in it's, desperate times call for desperate measures kind of a scenario, which, I think a lot of people could relate to that, and just that sense of urgency that you get, even though it is a super simplistic plot. Like,
and he did think too, like, this is temporary. I'm going to get back on my feet, and we won't need to be in this situation, which is, I think, helped with the tension in the novel, because he really wants to keep this brownstone. And as the things are unraveling, you're like, boy, you better get it back on your feet very quickly, or this is not going to go anywhere you're going to like.
Yeah, for sure. I have thoughts about what I would have done in that situation. So I don't know if we're going to get into spoilers territory.
Do we want to already, or do you want
to? We don't have to yet. We can
still talk about it.
So difficult not to. I will say this before we do encroach on spoilers. As I'm reading this book, I did not know that this was like her first foray into writing a male character, since she normally does. In hindsight, yes, most of her characters that she wrote for were female, but I did not like the character. I felt the way that it was being portrayed, I thought he was going to be part of the twist.
Really?
Like there was something like, there were just certain things that he would say along the way. It's like, this guy's bad. Something's not right. I just did not have a good feeling about this character as it was written. And I honestly think it was because I'm not used to reading Freida Mcfadden writing male characters. So I don't know if you guys got that, like any kind of vibe from him as a character, or if it was just me.
No,
I just liked him a lot. I felt he I was not a fan of his. And it's funny because I don't know if yours has that, Michelle, but in the back, Lisa Jewell said a character that I loved and hated in equal measure. And I was like, Lisa Jewell said exactly how I felt, because I disliked him the whole book.
Really? Wow. I felt different than both of you so far, because I didn't know what to make of him at first. Like when we first meet him, he gets fired unceremoniously, and he makes an offhanded comment about someone who had jumped out of the building and stuff. Like that. I thought, what a jerk.
Correct.
But then the more I thought maybe he was a psycho or something wrong with him. But then the more I read him, the more he made me laugh. And I grew to absolutely love him. I
Wow.
loved
Wow,
I loved
Michelle.
Blake. He was so funny to me. Like, I don't know if it was intentional that he was that funny, but just the things he was saying and stuff. And like, I mean, he's a loser. He is a complete idiot. He is somebody who invites chaos into his own life, like, but he has no accountability. Like, yes, he's not a morally good person. He's not good in any way, but as a character, he was so fun to read for me. Like, I loved reading him, even though, in real life, I would hate the guy, but as a book character, I loved him. So, yeah.
Can you hold up your copy of the book again?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's the same character? Was he a different character in our books then? Because that
I don't know. Honestly, every blue tab is some of his monologue or his inner monologue or his dialogue that made me laugh, or at some points laugh out loud. Like, he says the most ridiculous, outlandish things, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think he's meant to be an idiot. I mean, I didn't know what to make of it. I did hate him at first, but then he made me laugh and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay. And then he kind of became a victim-ish later on. So I don't know. I never felt bad for the guy, but I found him so entertaining. I really enjoyed reading him. So
yeah, I just thought at some point in time, once the novel progressed, he was not going to be who he thought he was.
yeah.
And but I am at least glad from your guys' comments that it definitely was something with the way Freida Mcfadden wrote him as a character, being the primary male character, that is kind of generated these different little ideas of how he's viewed as a character.
For sure.
I did think that he was funny. Like, there were lots of, humorous moments. I just felt he was so, hypocritical, like, he's like, oh, I'd never cheat on my girlfriend. Wow. But look at that girl's boobs. Like, and I was just like, really? Like,
I know. Like, that's
so
what I mean.
I didn't...
Yeah. Like, he was a total jackass, but I loved him anyway, like, in spite of him, I liked him.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
We'll get into Michelle's dating history after this live.
Yeah. No. Maybe that would explain it. Yeah.
So I want to just, everyone in the comments, if you could just tell us a little bit, like, have you read it? Have you read The Tenant? Let us know, because in a little bit I think we're about ready to talk a little bit about the stuff that went on and some spoilery stuff, but just so we know if you read it, and if you read it, tell us how you felt about it. Do we want to share our ratings? I know we haven't shared that with each other. We actually were backstage for a whole hour and a half chatting it up, but we didn't allow ourselves to talk about this because we wanted to have authentic reactions on camera. So if we want to share our ratings, why don't we go ahead and kind of do that?
Sure. Go ahead, D.
I didn't like it.
What?
You didn't?
Okay. As somebody that enjoys Freida Mcfadden as much as I do, if this book did not have her name on it, if it was written by somebody named Mary Glasgow, it would be a good book. It was a simplistic plot. The twist, which I don't want to talk about yet, because I think there's still another discussion we can have before the spoiler.
Yeah.
I kind of guessed it a little bit. I was very much in the ballpark. So as far as Freida Mcfadden, where this falls with a lot of the other books of hers that I read, it's real middle of the pack. It was really middle of the pack for me. And I have one very big, huge issue with the book that I want to save till we've discussed it a little bit more. Okay. And it's going to blow your guys' minds. I honestly...
Oh my God, I'm intrigued.
That's intriguing. I love that. I love that we all feel different.
Yeah, what was your star rating? I didn't catch it.
3. I don't do stars a lot. It's just when I rate Freida Mcfadden books, I rate them based off the ones that I really, really love.
Okay.
So it's not as good as this, not as bad as this. It was just middle of the pack. It's well written. It's paced well. Like I said, I thought for a Freida Mcfadden book, the twist was predictable and a little lazy, and she put herself in a position where she could have written one of her best books if she had done one thing with this book, in my opinion. which will be on to my when I get on my soapbox later.
Okay.
Okay.
So 3. I'll say 3. Middle of the pack.
Okay, that's fair. Like, I have not read near the amount of Freida books that you have. I've read, like I said, One by One, which was the people that their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. I love that book. That was like a 4-star read for me. And then this, I really enjoyed myself with this one. I had no expectations going in, so that didn't like, I wasn't thinking, oh, it, you know, I don't know what typical Freida is or not, so I had nothing to compare it to. And I absolutely, I loved it. I loved, you know, I could overlook a lot of things that didn't make sense, and I just rolled with it because, as we know, like you said, on page 11, I already knew who the bad guy was going to be, like, and I figured that out from, we'll talk about that, but like, I had a good inkling who it was anyway, but like, yeah, I was enjoying the dialogue. It made me laugh. And at one point I thought, is this satire? Like, is it meant to be this funny? But and it was just straight out fun and everything you want in a thriller, even though, you know, there's not a lot of surprises. Like Dee said, there's, you know, it's pretty predictable, but I don't know. I still had a great time. I gave it a 4.5. What didn't make it a 5-star for me was my last little flag at the end. And there's a little bit at the end that we can talk about later that brought it down for me. But
that's my whole I guarantee you that based off where your flag's at, that's my whole soapbox is where that little flag's at.
I have a flag. He has a soapbox. So yes.
Your flag's going to make me get on my soapbox.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would give this a 4.5, but yeah, I just had such a great time with it. It was pure entertainment for me. So yeah, sure. That was my, yeah. How about Isabel?
So I have read a lot of Freida books. I don't know, maybe I've read like, I don't think I've read as many as Dee has, but I have read like maybe 10, 12 of them. So it had what I love, which is how consumable her books are, how they keep you flipping the pages. All of the chapters end on like a little cliffhanger, and you just have to know. Like at one point I was like, okay, I need to know what's going on. Like this poor man is like, you know, tormented. I need to know what's happening here. So it had that, which I really enjoyed. I did not enjoy him as a main character. I didn't really like the male voice. And I do agree that the plot twist was not impressive. I think especially because usually a Freida book for me will be like a 3-star all the way, but then her plot twists, a lot of the ones I've read have been so like jaw-dropping that I have to give it like an extra star or 2, because how do I do that? How do I not reward, you know, the book for doing something like that? Like, how did I not see that coming? But in this one, I think it was pretty predictable from the beginning, even if I didn't know like a lot of the reasoning behind it or whatnot. I thought one part of the plot twist was incredibly predictable, and I felt like the other part was like not, you know, accurate, or couldn't, you know, I had to suspend disbelief too much to you know, kind of enjoy that one. But overall I did really like it. I gave it a 4-star. Most of the Freida books I've read are either 3, 4, or 5-star. Yeah, and I thought it was pretty good. It's just not one of her better ones. I agree with Dee. It's really not one of her strongest for those reasons, but it was still a good read. I still had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. I think that's a good way of wording it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, The Perfect Son. That was the other Freida book I had read, and that one was like so for me. It wasn't great, but yeah.
Never lie.
Never lie. Soapboxes.
Yes.
I'm just gonna go buy a bunch of copies of it and give it away on my channel so we can get.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we talk spoilers, let's go through the logic of the situation, because I think when we talk about the predictability of this, it seems like we're a lot on the same page as we saw where it was going. So she moves in, you're being a nice host. Hey, oh, you like my cereal? You can have it if you need it. Oh, you don't have hair care products yet? Use mine until you get a chance to. And then all of a sudden they're all gone. and he decides to go to her work and say, no, sorry, it's probably not a good idea. And it all blows up from right there. Okay. So my first thing, when the next issue comes up, am I going to go to this person who I've already antagonized at their work in some way, shape, or form? Or maybe, I don't know, go to my fiance and say, hey, this didn't go right the first time and I'm having this issue. Would you mind talking to her? The fact that that did not happen immediately just started, the bell started going off. Why wasn't the fiance? Why didn't he involve his fiance in trying to resolve these issues?
Mm-hmm.
Now, to Freida's credit here, I was still on the mindset that he was going to be the one that was not.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, you know what ticked me off first that I thought, okay, it was on page 11 when Blake says, he goes, I knew I wanted to marry Krista because if a woman bakes cookies that delicious, she's got to be a special person or whatever he said. Like, yeah. If she can bake something that tastes that good, she's special. And I thought, okay, there's going to be something with Krista and somebody's going to put rat poison in those cookies or something like that later on. It's going to be the cookies. And then they kept bringing up the cookies. And I thought, okay, well, this is kind of silly, but whatever. And then like you know, the hysteria that ensued on Blake's behalf with the fruit flies and his obsession with the shampoo and all that, what happened with the cereal. I thought that Blake's and Whitney's reactions were both way disproportionate to the situation, like so overblown. And so I had to overlook a lot with that too. That was,
My wife is a home baker. She has a bakery business that does very well. So the whole thing with the cookies, Freida nailed it there.
Yeah, it made me crave cookies when I was reading those parts. It's like,
wasn't that one of the reading questions? Something about what did the cookies symbolize or something like that? Hold on.
I think so.
Well, and did you find that Krista was made to be very childlike and very kind of childish in her actions? Mm-hmm. She seemed young to me. She seemed like a teenager or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
she was impulsive, bratty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also found all of her reactions to not be normal. Like I kept saying, like, if I were in this situation, that would not be what I would do, you know? So I found her, and I think one of my annotations somewhere was like, is this bad writing or is she like suspicious? Like, you know, because how does a woman say, wow, don't you think the girl living with us is so hot? Like, I mean, who says this?
Well, and for me, it was like when she found his phone in Whitney's bedroom and she immediately is accusatory to her husband. It's like, no wife would do that. She's like, oh, this is weird, but let's talk about this. It's not going to be instant hysteria, like, you know, and being so, they were all really immature. So I had to overlook that. And, you know, the main problem is the money in this book. And if I'm in that situation in real life, the first thing I'm doing is selling the brownstone. Like, you know, that would be the logical thing to do, but we just bypass logic in this story. So I had to overlook that. And I'm glad that she did reference it toward the end. There was a part where, you know, when we read from Krista's perspective, she says, oh yeah. And then Blake brought up us selling the brownstone and I had to figure out a way to talk him out of it because that would have ruined everything. Like, you know, but anyway.
And it was the point in time. So, you know, I had mentioned that why not get your fiance involved to talk to this tenant. And then when he does talk to his fiance about her, she's like, oh no, she's fine. You're misunderstanding. And I'm sure that's what I was just like, I know where this is going. Okay. Yeah. I know where this is going now. I got a question for you. Have you seen Fatal Attraction?
Yes.
Do we not feel for the goldfish in this? We knew.
Yes.
Immediately. As much as they talked about this goldfish, the goldfish was not going to survive.
No.
And that was a part that was so dumb to me, the goldfish funeral and everything. And like where Krista was like a little kid and, you know, like that was really silly. And I mean, but you're right. It also reminded me of Single White Female, that movie too. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, I totally forgot about that movie.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, fatal attraction meets single white female.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You know what I also found interesting, like right from the beginning when the other tenants, potential tenants, are coming to see the house or whatnot, and that whole comment of, oh, you must be a Scorpio, right? How is
yeah,
it that every person tells him the same thing? That's why I thought there was something wrong with him, because
yeah.
I was like, he's an unreliable narrator. Like,
Mm,
this is not logical. Like, how are
no.
three different people going to say to you, oh, you must be a Scorpio, right? Like, who goes
Yeah.
around saying that, you know? Three
Yeah.
women telling him that within the span of like an hour. So I
Yeah.
thought that really led us to believe he was unreliable, because he had to be making this up. Like, this could not
Yeah.
be happening.
Yeah. You're right. There was a point where I thought, is Blake just hallucinating all of this?
Yeah,
Like, did he have a mental health issue? Because the
correct.
way he was obsessive on the fruit flies, and like
Yeah.
when he pounded his fist on the one fruit fly on the counter, and like, and then he's going on and he's itching and scratching himself and like
Yeah.
freaking out over the laundry. And, he was kind of going insane. And it was like, okay, am I reading this correctly? Like, you're
Correct.
right. I thought this guy has gone off the deep end. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Poor Goldie. Goldie, the goldfish.
Goldie.
And as much as they feel like, oh, this is how we're going to practice to have children, I'm like, that
Oh.
goldfish is not going to survive.
Survive. Yeah. What I loved Quilizabeth, that psychic lady that came over. That was fun to read too.
That I liked what she did with that, because
Yes.
you get from Blake's point of view, and then when they flip the POV and you find out what that really was about, that actually was a bit of genius on Freida's part on that.
I love that.
I think you should have linked into that a little bit more, and that'll come up when I get on my soapbox later. But that probably could have gotten it up to a bit better. A 4, I'll say. It could have gotten a 4 to me if she would have taken the few things that she did that was original and I thought was really good and expanded upon it.
Yeah, for sure. I could have used more Quilizabeth in there. Definitely. That was a good character.
Funny, because it wasn't until like I got through the book, right? Like I read it, and it wasn't until I think like 30 minutes later that Queen Elizabeth's like whole like prophecy or whatever came back to me, and I'm like, oh my god, like, and that was so cool to me, that part, that I didn't even realize that when I was reading quickly to finish, and I was like, wow, man, she should have capitalized more on this. Like, I feel like that might have been like a missed.
She rushed it. She rushed a good plot point that she had in this book.
Yeah, and you know what I couldn't figure out? Why did we have Gwen, the ex-girlfriend? Like, what purpose did she serve?
Oh yeah,
like the platinum blonde hair, and she smoked, and he makes a reference to her, and that's fine. I thought, okay, that just goes to show that he's a cheater and stuff, right? His character. But then later on in the book, he runs into her on the street, and it's like, I don't really know why. Like, I could have done without that secondary person. I don't know. I just didn't see the point of that one, really. So
me either.
Yeah,
I know they allude to it after that, she's the reason that things didn't work out for them, that she had something to do with that. Krista did, but yeah, I didn't see the whole point of when he bumps into her. Like, what was the point of that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of those things, and it's of many things I had to just go with in this book and not question it too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm
looking through my notes.
Me too. You know what? There was a good social commentary in here for me, though. Like, the whole issue of landlords getting stuck with tenants who will not pay their rent and not being able to kick them out because of how the laws are. That's a real issue that's pretty prevalent over the last couple of years. It seems like I've heard more and more about how landlords are not being able to collect back rent from tenants. Like, I saw, one day on the news, some landlord that, the tenants owed him $30,000, but I can't kick them out because of the laws protecting them and stuff. So, I mean, in a way, there was a little bit of social relevance in this book, as far-fetched as it was in every other respect. Right. There was that kind of element, which was interesting. But and then at one point I thought maybe he's going to set this place on fire and burn the place down, because there's a page here that says he's talking about how he hates Whitney, and he goes, I glare at her with such venom that it's hard not to imagine her skin sizzling off her bones. I speak slowly and deliberately. So I thought, oh, maybe he's going to torch the place if he's thinking about her skin burning off and stuff.
It was a lot of little comments like that. There's the one scene where he imagines, what it would take to throw in the garbage can at the neighbor. He's like, oh, probably 3 times it takes him out. And there's just those little comments that she did with this male character that I'm just like, if this guy's not the psycho by the end of this book, she pulled one over on me.
There was a lot there. I think he fantasized about killing quite a few people throughout. He wanted to get rid of everyone, like, you know what I mean? So I think, and I understand being a red herring, we want to suspect him or whatever, but and I also think that had she made him have some sort of mental health condition happening, I don't think that's like the right way of going about it either, so part of me doubted that she would go that route, just because that seemed problematic. I
don't know. After you dump maggots in somebody's bed, I mean, you just go anywhere with that.
Well, like the one time I felt like, okay, he's finally going to get his comeuppance is when Mr. Zimmerly died, the older man across. I thought, okay, Blake, now for sure he's going to, something bad, because he's kind of been skating on things and getting away with stuff. And, so, and then, at the beginning, he says, I've heard ice cold showers are for psychopaths, but I'm addicted. I've been doing it since college. That made me think that, oh yeah, he's a psychopath. Okay. But then he talks about feeling bad about Krista being homeless. So I thought, well, he has some empathy, right? So yeah, it was like up and down. And
it was a very unbalanced character. And I don't know if it's unbalanced because that was her first time writing in a strong male point of view like that, or she was trying to put those red herrings in there so we would suspect him in some shape or fashion. And I think ultimately, whichever one it was, did do a disservice to the book. Yeah.
Well, and if he hadn't made me laugh so much, I would have intensely disliked him. But I kind of could overlook everything else because he was entertaining me. Like when he's going back to he's making a fool of himself all over the place, and he goes back to his office job that he hates, and he's crossing a street, and the taxi skids to a halt a split second before mowing me down a crosswalk. I almost wish it had just hit me and put me out of my misery. Like when he said stuff like that. I know. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, he was funny. I did find him entertaining, and he was funny, but think about it now. I mean, after we know everything that's happening, I mean, he has every right to feel that way. I mean, he's being driven, mad. But I think that was very obvious, like, how does he not see that this is not him? That's why I felt like it was too much. Like, how is he not suspicious of this,
Yeah. Like for a guy who held such a high position, he was really not very smart, Made you wonder how he got promoted to that job. And then he kept putting down the guy who got his job after he got fired. He kept saying, Malcolm or whatever his name was. He's like, that guy doesn't.
Malcolm and Becky were weird too. That was weird too.
I didn't get that at all. Like,
neither.
It was kind of unnecessary. So yeah.
And I will say I am glad once the neighbor died. I was really afraid all of a sudden this book was going to become this thing where he was in jail trying to prove his innocence, and we know he didn't do it. And I just like, please don't go this route. Please don't go this route. And then he goes to, I guess this is where we get to the spoilers. He goes and visits who he believes is his roommate's mother, sees the picture, and boom, now we know what we knew all along.
Yeah.
The fiance was evil.
I was so glad to get to that part because leading up to that, it had gotten pretty boring. Like there wasn't a lot going on. Yeah. And then finally, chapter 41, he's like, I end up renting a Corolla, and he drives to Whitney's mother's house, right? But I enjoyed that confrontation, like that scene with her mother where he sees, I enjoyed that part, but like, yeah, there was a lull in there that was kind of like, okay, something has to happen now. Let's go.
Right.
Plot wise.
So did you, like I said, I got to the point where I knew it was like, okay, it's the fiance. What was her name? Whitney? Or no, that was the roommate. I'm sorry.
Krista.
Krista. Thank you. Was there a point where you're like, Krista's involved or she's the main one? Mm-hmm. I mean, I got there before he went to go see the mom. And again, it was just like I said, her not being involved in a lot of this initial, oh, she's ate all my cereal. Help me out here. No, that's why would my phone be there? I know. I was like, all right, Krista's
who eats that much cereal? Like the girl has been there a day. Like how could she eat an entire box of cereal?
And the whole thing, I know more now about laundry detergent than I think I ever knew.
I know. Lemonade.
Oh wow,
I've heard of that before.
That's a thing. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I read it, and I kid you not, like 5 minutes later, like I started scratching my arm for some reason.
I know. Yeah, I didn't. The minute I always kind of suspected that Krista would be the bad guy, but like when she flipped out over finding the phone in her bedroom, that's when I thought, okay, this is totally irrational, this reaction. Like nobody would leave him for that reason. Like she's not moving out, breaking up with the guy for that. Like she would have sided with her fiance rather than this woman that they don't even know, right? And I thought what irritated me was Whitney's overblown reactions to Blake. I thought, why does she hate him so intensely? Like she barely knows the guy, right? So yeah, that was weird, but
that's why initially what I knew it was her, like she was involved from the beginning, even from the potential tenants that came, like they were all terrible. I said, what is the likelihood of each one getting worse and worse and worse? Like she has to be in on it. I just didn't, like, I suspected that she and Whitney were in on it, that it was for some reason they were doing this to him. I obviously thought he had an affair. Like I knew he had cheated on her, and that was the reason why, because he had all these comments like, oh, let me look away because she's wearing a tank top, or I really want to look, but so I knew something like that had happened. What really like got me was the mistaken identity, or like that she wasn't, that wasn't her name, or that wasn't who she was. Like that part I didn't really get until it was revealed to us, but I knew from the get-go that she was involved and she was the one doing this to him. I just didn't really know. I thought Winnie was in on it.
Yeah. For sure.
That was me trying to decide, like, all right, is Whitney involved, and if so, how much was she hired from the beginning, or how did she get involved in this wonderful story? And I also think too that's where the narrative style that Freida employs, where now all right, Chris is involved, boom, now we're going to swap over to Chris's POV. Yeah. We're going to get her backstory, and she's going to fill in all these little holes. Talking about hiring the people to do these various things. And actually, it's when she switched to Chris's POV that the book got so much better.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too.
Yeah.
Have you read the Housemaid books?
The first one.
Yeah, all three of the Housemaid books, that's the narrative style. It goes up to the twist, swaps. You get the antagonist version, and then you resolve. It's very effective.
Yeah.
And I don't think she needed that for this book. I think there's one thing different she could have done, that she could have tied up a lot of these little things that we've been talking about. But it got better once we got Krista to see how devious she was, the sociopath that she was, and
yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Like, it got better. I like Krista filling in the blanks, like, and mentioning that he mentioned selling the brownstone, because that, I thought, how stupid could they be? Why is he so desperate to hang on to the brownstone if he's in that desperate financial situation, right? So, but yeah, I was overall, I mean, I was pretty happy with the tying up of the loose ends towards the end, but I could have done without the Amanda part at the end, to be honest. Like, me.
So is that the soapbox?
Soapbox. If you cut out that part completely, it's the exact same book. Like, it did absolutely nothing for me. Like, I was happy with Blake going to Cleveland to take over his dad's hardware store business, and good for Blake. And he's far enough away that Krista cannot, there's no way for them any more trouble with that. And like, he's going to go start a new life. And I was happy. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then we get a part with Amanda, and I'm like, oh, that's enough. I've had enough. I didn't want to read Amanda. So yeah.
Okay. So before going to the soapbox, one of the comments talks about Freida's book, The Teacher.
Yeah.
Have either of you read that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I read it.
It's interesting that it came up just then, because she does the same thing in The Teacher. The very last, say, chapter, 4 or 5 pages is like a post-credits movie scene. If you leave during the credits, you're not missing out on anything. And that's what the little bit with Amanda at the end of the book was.
Yeah.
If you'd have just shut the book right then and there and not read that bit about Amanda, you'd have been nothing would have mattered. She did that in The Teacher too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here is why it bothered me so much in this book. And I'm going to be on my soapbox for a few.
Okay.
We have to.
I'm ready.
We won't time you. We won't time you.
Whatever it is. Okay. I don't like to read a book and find out that the most interesting character was never utilized. You gave me this little bit about Amanda at the end, and I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. She didn't borrow money for mom's chemotherapy. She was a degenerate gambler. She had been hired to avenge the boy that Krista had killed in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that span of those few pages, you gave me the most interesting character in the book. You give me a degenerate gambler woman that has to move into somebody's house, possibly to murder one of the tenants to erase a gambling debt. If Freida Mcfadden would have based the book around that character with the same vein, you know, however she gets there, she's Freida Mcfadden. And this was the writer of me that popped out when I read that Amanda bit. If the whole book would have been from Amanda's POV with the same thing, she moves in, she has the problems with the husband, but she can't let that get to her because she's really there because she needs to get to Krista, whatever. Freida Mcfadden would have probably knocked it out the park with this book, because Amanda was the most interesting character, but you don't find out until the last 3 pages of the book. And that drove me nuts.
Whoa.
Nuts.
That is wow.
It is, because it was so predictable. It was, none of the characters were really different than you could read in any other types of thrillers like this. But then you give me a degenerate gambler woman that borrows money from the mob, and you're not going to write a book around her. Whoa. Yeah, that's my soapbox. If she would have focused this book around that character, and maybe you disagree with me, Amanda was the most interesting character at the end of the book, hands down.
Really?
Hands down, in my opinion.
I disagree with you.
Hot takes.
Let's go. Let me get off my soapbox. You can get on it now.
Okay, this is my hot take here. The reason why I didn't like the Amanda part was that I found it completely, I didn't find it that interesting. I thought it was kind of a cliche character. Like, for me, I had read similar people so much. Like, I didn't think it added to the story. But what I would have preferred to see is, you know, what I would like to see is more of Blake in his new life. Because, I mean, she spent so much time on Blake inventing this ridiculous guy, and then he goes to start a new life. I could read another book about Blake having another experience with some other psycho in some other city. That's where I'm going with this. It's
while
like,
managing a tool store.
The hardware store. Like, he's just
all the murder weapons alone available make that worth it.
And then he'll meet some new psycho woman, and he'll get his hives all over his whole body again. And then he'll start freaking out over the fruit flies again. No, but it's not that Amanda was a bad character. She was a good character, but I just didn't think it added to the book. It wasn't necessary for me. So
she was a bad character, but she became a good character in those last couple pages of the book. We didn't need to know any of that, mind you.
Yeah.
But you told me that. Now all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that's more interesting than all the other characters. Why didn't you just write the story from her point of view. That to me is a Freida Mcfadden-esque type writing.
Yeah.
You're
Which I'm gonna jump now that you said that, because here's my take on that. So I hated that she did that, because I feel like she just wanted to add an extra twist. Like, I feel like she never planned that out. I feel it was, because Frida's books always add one more twist at the end, and one more twist. And normally they're really good. Like, those ending twists are like what make it, that you're like, oh man, this isn't a 3-star anymore. Now it's a 4-star. And then she does it one more time and you're like, how the heck do I give this like anything less than a 5-star? But in this one, I feel like she just couldn't let it be. Like, she couldn't just let Amanda go on with her regular life. She's like, I'm going to villainize this whole thing and still make her like a bad character, or, still make you think twice. And she never gave any inkling that she was any of those things. Like, we never saw any of that as a potential thing for her. So that's what bothered me about it. So I'm on the soapbox too, but those are the reasons why,
it did need to be in there. She could have just left it out. It just irked me that she put it in there, because it showed me she had a more interesting character in mind.
Yeah.
But she just, we're good. I'll just tell them at the end she was this. And
it felt like the low-hanging fruit, like the easiest possible thing to just slide in, flip shot, just slap it in at the end. So I agree with both of you that although we have different reasons why we didn't like it, and I think that's really interesting. Like, I like that we all have a different, like Isabel and I have similar tastes.
Yeah.
Like, similar opinion about that, but I like Dee's takes, because that's different than, like, I wouldn't have thought, hey, more Amanda, like.
I wanted more Amanda after I read that, because I thought the other characters didn't compare. They were two-dimensional characters that you see in a lot of different stories.
Yeah.
And
I want more Blake, and I want more Quig.
I really liked Blake.
I do. He's an idiot, and he makes me laugh. What can I say? If somebody makes me laugh, they won me over. So no, I don't know if I could take a whole entire book of him, but
And it's interesting, the person that commented on the teacher, because the little twist with Amanda here, poorly executed, very poorly executed. It didn't need to be there. She does the same thing in the teacher, but and I'll just go ahead and spoil it. The gist of the teacher novel is the two teachers, her husband's dating a student, gets out of hand. That woman is seeing somebody, and you don't find out until the last page of the book that she too herself was dating a student.
Yeah. Oh.
Now, that last little bit where you could have left it out still impacted the whole novel as you read and understood it. It did tie everything up. And you're like, Freida, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. She the whole time, Freida. But I didn't get that with Amanda. Leave it out, or make Amanda the main character.
Yeah, like if you're gonna go that way, lean all the way into it, or leave it out completely. Like that's what I thought too. So for sure.
And I did like the idea of her, like, people getting revenge on her, and like that she was bested, right, by the people she, the family of the first guy she wronged. I do like that. Maybe they could have gone somewhere with that, but it just, to use Whitney or Amanda or whatever for that seemed wild to me. And the whole thing with the name, that she steals her identity, we haven't talked about that, but how did you guys feel about that? Because I have opinions.
Well, I mean, like her poor mother, right? Like this family, I felt bad for they don't go too far deep into beyond Blake's visit with Mrs. Cross, so that's all we know. But like, I felt bad for the mother and what a horrible daughter. And like, I don't know. It was confusing that they both use the same name like that. I don't know. I don't understand.
It's called a literary coincidence.
Yeah.
How does that happen, right?
Plot.
Like, how does that even happen out of the millions and trillions of names?
Yeah.
Right? How does that even happen?
Yeah.
Because you think at a minimum you would like, oh, I wonder who this person used to be. And then you're going to find out that they were attached to a possibly sketchy suicide, attempted murder, or whatever. And you're like, yeah, that's the one I'll go with right there.
Yeah. I'll go with one of the most publicized names in the local newspaper. Like, that made no sense, but
It's like, all right, I'm going to change my name to, I don't know, Diddy now. That just seems like a just common random name just to use. I'm going to steal an identity. That's
Steal an
yeah.
identity.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, the whole idea of identity theft is terrifying to me. Like that's, I remember at one time, it wasn't an identity theft, but there was a woman with the exact same name as me who lived in the same neighborhood and had a very similar phone number. So I called my doctor one time to confirm an appointment, and they said, "Oh, you already called us," and it was this other Michelle with the same last name as me who lived in the same part of the city as me.
That's so scary.
Right. So that was a direct impact on my life from some.
You know what I would have done? Moved.
Yeah. I changed my phone number. Yeah. So, I mean, that was really weird. And then I got a phone call from one of her family members one time. And she's like, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not the Michelle you think I am." And then she's like, "What? I just saw you last week at Aunt Nancy's in Red Deer." And I'm like, "No, you didn't.
What?
That wasn't me." It was crazy. Like, so yeah.
You sound like you're summarizing a Freida Mcfadden book.
I know.
For real.
Honest to God, this happened. This is like about 2005-ish, somewhere in there. But like, I moved, I changed my number and stuff since then. But like, and it didn't go on for very long. But like, they figured out that I wasn't the person they thought. And it had me questioning, like, this is weird. Am I the one who's crazy in this situation?
Yeah.
Like,
well, thank goodness they were not a degenerate gambler.
Right. Or Quigzilla. I want to call her Quigzilla. Her name is Quilizabeth.
I love Elizabeth.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, the name swap thing is weird. I know.
That's the plot. That's the plot for your next your book.
We haven't even gotten into my dating history yet. That could be a whole entire book into itself too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Isabel, one of these days you and I are going to be doing booktube reviews of Michelle's books.
I'm telling you.
Book review.
Michelle one day sat down and just decided to write about her life, and now she's a bestseller.
Memoir. I think you guys probably could write a good book yourselves. So I mean, I'm sure you've got stories. Yeah,
we all do.
That is crazy.
That's wild.
No, that is the biggest moment of belief I did have to suspend in this book was of all the people's identities you're going to take. This is the person.
Yeah.
I did that. I really disliked that part because I was like, come on now. Like, really? Like, and the last name, I mean, you could have just done the first name or something, but then last name too. And
yeah, for sure. I know. And yeah, I don't know. And to me, did you guys think it took him forever to find the rotten apple in the bag in the kitchen? Like, I thought, like, I would have been on that right away and just like, I don't know. I thought that was an unnecessarily lengthy scene. Like by that point, I was like, okay, something has to happen here. Besides the fruit flies and maggots and the laundry soap and stuff. So, yeah, but I don't know. If it wasn't for his quippy sayings and like his inner monologue, I think, that's what kept me flipping pages because it was entertaining. But yeah, for those parts.
For me, it's just how bingeable they are, like it's just fun to turn off your brain and like, read this whole thing. Like that's how I
feel about James Patterson novels.
Yeah.
I call them airplane novels. It's just a book you grab, just shut down, read it real quick on plane ride, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want Freida Mcfadden relegated to that because at times she just knocks it out the park. She's a phenomenal author with the psychological manipulation. She just didn't get there in this book.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed One by One, where the husband and wife and the three couples in the minivan and the van breaks down. Claire, the protagonist in that one, it was mostly her monologue, and she was really funny too. I really enjoyed her as well. And so I thought it was a page turner for sure. I read it in a couple of days, and I want to read more from her, definitely. So but
I think she mocks a lot of her characters. I think that's something that she does. She like pokes fun at them, or they're very like okay, here's a stereotype of a character and I'm making this character this stereotype. I think she does that a lot. And it normally doesn't bother me. I'm okay with that,
Yeah, like they're kind of caricatures of themselves, like they're
Yes.
ridiculous. And yeah.
Well, you'll accept, something that's here when I think Isabel brought it up earlier. It's like, oh, well, you gave me this though, so I mean, I immediately have to elevate my idea because yeah, you may have gone this route where, well, this isn't original, but the thing that you did that wasn't original blew my mind so much that I didn't really remember this. And then so the Tenant overall did not have enough of that oh my god moments that made me overlook the what are we talking about? What are we doing here moments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It could have been like it lacked plausibility, it's something to ground it in reality and make it more that sense of urgency that gets your heart rate up and you're like, oh my God, the relatability factor. So yeah, for sure. But super fun though.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so this book was 346, 345 pages.
Yeah.
Her next book, which we talked a little bit backstage,
Yeah.
the lingo there, The Intruder, which comes out in August, is only 288 pages.
Oh, really?
So I mean, I'm curious. I mean, that's a quick read. I mean, that's literally like blink, you miss it, you're done.
Yeah.
And of the 3 books that she's had come out this year, The Intruder, which is basically there's a woman who's in her cabin and then another woman shows up outside and she's bloodied and like, let me in. That sounds the most like interesting of the Tenant and even the Crash. The Crash was okay.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to The Intruder.
Yeah. I love an isolated setting. Give me a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere. And like, I love that.
Me too.
That'll be a fun one.
The Crash was isolated. Yeah, the Crash was like that. So.
Oh, cool.
I have to pick that one up. I got to read that one.
Yeah. Well, Dee, what would you say is your favorite of the Mcfadden books? Like,
I was going to ask that too.
Never Lie. Never Lie.
Great minds.
Yep. Never Lie, because Freida Mcfadden, in my opinion, just based off what I read of hers, Freida Mcfadden is at her best with the least amount of characters, like present, and then there's characters like in Never Lie. They're all based off cassettes of therapy sessions that she's listening to put this story together. And there's a lot of different little plot threads. There's even the last 2 pages of the book is it's another plot twist all on its own.
Yeah.
But when she's in an isolated setting with minimal characters and those characters are written well, she shines and her plot twist shines because there's not a lot of extraneous things that are polluting your reading experience. And as I talk about it, that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy The Tenant as much. There was so much extraneous things that you're questioning. Yeah. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? It takes away from the narrative, where some of her best books, Housemaid, Never Lie, Coworker, are very minimal in characters and very minimal in distractions. She's guiding a good plot twist. You're being led like a dog. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I didn't know we were going here.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad we're here though. So that's Never Lie, I think is my favorite.
Okay. Cause I have Coworker from my library over there. I'm going to read that one probably next. And then I have The Inmate too. So I've heard Ward D is a good one. I've heard people around talking about that one too. I don't know.
She has not written a bad book, but the first one of hers I read was Housemaid, which was written in this narrative faction. Okay, you're going with the protagonist. Whoa, what the hell happened? Now you're talking with the antagonist. And so the first few books I read of hers, which were ones that people were recommending, were her better books. So I was so enamored and like, oh my God, Freida Mcfadden, I'll die on this hill for Freida Mcfadden. And it's a difficult narrative style to consistently nail even Stephen King has written books that aren't Stephen King-ish. Yeah. So when you're as prolific as somebody is Freida Mcfadden, James Patterson, people that are just constantly putting out content, they're not going to knock it out of the park 100% of the times. So that's why like a lot of my ratings on Freida Mcfadden books aren't necessarily based off other books, but books that she's written, because I love psychological thrillers. I love the psychology behind the things that you can do to make people believe, to suspend disbelief, and Freida Mcfadden is extremely capable of that.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, my highest rated is also, I just pulled up my Goodreads to check real quick, is Never Lie as well. So that's that was a 5-star for me, and I really enjoyed that one too. I like the setting a lot. There were some surprising things that happened there that I really liked. I love that one. I gave that one a 5-star too.
Oh, cool.
Which one?
Okay.
Never Lie.
Okay.
Yeah, don't
Ward
spoil
D
me. I'm
was
gonna
good.
read that one too.
Yeah. Ward D was good too. I gave that one 4 stars. And I also really like The Inmate. That one's really good too.
Cool.
And I know D likes The Coworker a lot. That one was a 3-star for me. But they're pretty good, honestly. I think the only one that I gave, I'm looking now, my only 2-star was Want to Know a Secret. Have you read that one, D? Want to Know a Secret?
I have not.
Okay, that was a 2-star for me. So that's the lowest one that I've rated. But The Housemaid was 5 stars as well.
Okay.
That was
have you read all 3 of the Housemaid books?
Only the first.
Okay. First, second are good. The third one, they're good characters. It's almost one of those like the Alex Cross series. You just see this character, the Housemaid series, the Housemaid, and then you haven't read the second one, you said, right?
No.
Okay,
I didn't hear
Enzo
it.
the Gardener. I'll just say Enzo the Gardener.
Yeah, I haven't read any of them. I'll have to pick up the Housemaid books too.
Housemaid's the very first book I read by her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it got a lot of publicity on BookTube. Lots of people are talking about it. So
Sydney Sweeney.
Oh yeah,
is going to be in the movie. Oh, that brings me to my question. I forgot. I was going to talk to you guys about this earlier, but so when Michelle and I did the Blob, we had just a quick discussion of who would you picture this as a movie, a TV show. So all right, the Tenant movie or TV show, and cast it. The 3 main characters. So Blake, Krista, and Amanda.
Okay.
One caveat here, because I know we're probably going to discuss Freida Mcfadden again in the future. Whoever you cast in this book now, you cannot cast in another discussion.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oof.
I would. You know who I can see is Blake, that young guy who plays on that show You. That Penn Badgley, or what is that his name? He's a dark-haired guy. I could see him because he's kind of good looking, but not really. Like to me, Blake in the book had very distinctive eyes and I don't know. He was just he was good looking, but not gorgeous. So I wouldn't pick like a really leading man to play him. I would pick a Brad Pitt looking guy, but
James Franco, that's a good one.
James Franco.
Yeah, he'd be good.
And then I don't have to cast anything ever again.
Okay. You know what? I think I would rather see it as a TV series than a movie, just because if you got sick of it, you could turn it off and not continue, because there's so much of it revolving around Blake and his shenanigans in there. So it might be better as a TV show than a movie if it was just, a 1-hour episode of showing, him and everything he gets into, but I don't know.
For some reason, I keep thinking, because I'm thinking of Gone Girl. I don't know if you guys have read and or watched the movie, but I'm thinking Ben Affleck, because I feel like he would be just as lost.
I just threw it from my mouth a little.
Yeah, Ben Affleck. Yeah,
because he's just as lost. In that movie, he's like, "What is happening?" And you know how that movie goes. So I think I kind of, and I like her actually, whoever she is. She's just too old looking to be a Krista. It has to be young.
Would be
I cast Anna Kendrick as Krista.
Oh yeah, I like Anna Kendrick
because she's got that. She was in the singing movies, Pitch Perfect, and everybody loves her. Yeah. So let's throw her in that kind of role and find out she's a sociopath. I think that would be perfect for Anna Kendrick.
You know who I would cast as Whitney / Amanda would be that girl who played Ruth in the Ozark TV show. The little blonde curly haired girl, Julia. No, I forget what her name is.
I haven't seen Ozark.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
I didn't even know Canadians had TV.
What's that?
I didn't even know Canadians had TV.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't have cable TV. I got rid of my cable TV. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I watch streaming stuff, but
Yeah.
that's it. So yeah,
I don't know
it
who
just
the
got to be too expensive. So
I think it would be a better movie just because you can get rid of a lot of what, for me, didn't work in the book that I wouldn't want to see.
yeah,
Would probably get dragged out and expanded in a TV show.
yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think it
I
should be a
could see it
movie.
as a TV show, but they would have to expand
Yeah.
on things that maybe weren't executed properly to begin
Yeah.
with.
So everything that you didn't like but I liked would be there in
Yeah.
the TV show. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
think Whitney or Amanda would be like Margot Robbie or something. Like I think she's like pretty quirky enough to kind of,
yeah,
you know, maybe.
for sure.
If the character was utilized like I believed it should have been as the main character that the story is revolved around, yes,
Mhm.
Margot Robbie. But I think just so I have the option to have Margot Robbie in another Freida Mcfadden project later, I'm gonna have to pass on Margot Robbie as Whitney Amanda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a good one for that, I think.
Who would
and
play
then
Elizabeth in the movie?
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
oh my God, I'm obsessed. She might be my favorite character.
I know.
I know.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think she's my favorite.
Yeah, totally. I loved her. She was. Like
She was
one of my
older,
favorites.
right? She was
Yeah.
older.
Yeah. She was older, like 60s or something, or 70s.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
quite a bit older.
Who could it be? Let me see.
Yeah. Somebody eccentric and
I'm thinking like a sassy Hispanic woman.
Oh, okay.
yeah. I don't know.
This is the problem though. When we were discussing casting the Blob because the main character was Asian, like I just don't know a lot of Asian stars to be able to like, oh,
Yeah.
that person.
And
So-
you know what? I don't watch a lot of movies, so I don't know a
Yeah.
lot of young actors and actresses out there, current people.
Cast it correctly though, that person would probably steal the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like
For sure.
it's funny because when you guys started talking about that character, I mean, I immediately went to those scenes and how they were good plot wise, but character wise, I was like, wow, yeah. She would be
I
a
like her
highlight.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a highlight if they made this into a movie or TV show.
I did
Mhm.
too. I liked her, and then I felt bad, like she was almost in danger, like being around
Yeah.
these people,
Yeah.
you know. So,
You know, we never talked about Krista's friend. Like we didn't even mention.
oh yeah, Becky,
What was his name? What was his name?
Becky, and Malcolm.
No, the other guy. The
Oh yeah.
Oh,
what's his name?
the guy that was helping her get stuff, and
Yes.
he
Yes.
was one of the
Yeah.
tenants that came. He wanted to drill in the wall to check the cables.
Right.
And then he starts
went up to Blake
everywhere.
like it's messed up what you did to Krista, and then Krista ends up killing him,
I'm gonna
Yeah.
try and find him.
but gives him the last a nice exit, I guess you could say.
He's like really short. Remember, she describes him as being like 5'4" or something.
He was in love
Elijah?
with her.
No, it's
What was his
Elijah.
Yes.
Elijah.
Yeah.
the
Was
little
it
guy with the
Elijah?
Wow, I
glasses.
can't believe we went through we've been talking over an hour and his character never came up once.
I just
Yeah.
mentioned, yeah.
He was
Can't believe
just
it.
like collateral damage. He just got
Yeah.
killed.
It shows you just how much she had going on. The more that we talk about various things like this, I'm starting to see how much more she had going on in this book than she normally does. There was a lot going on in this book where a key character that is murdered in the book,
Yeah.
and there's a little the subplot there of him being in love with her, and it's like we just don't need to talk about that. We're gonna get on the soapbox and bitch about Amanda.
Yeah. Well, and the whole Blake meeting Malcolm at the bar for a drink and the whole that kind of filler scenes,
Yeah.
like
It's making me want to lower my rating in this book. That's dead serious.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, dead serious.
Okay.
Because just the more I think about all these little things that didn't need to be there,
Yes.
she could have tightened up the narrative a little bit and just
Okay, I'll put mine down to a 4, a solid 4. It's not
I'll
a
keep
4
mine
or
at
5,
4.
it's a 4.
All right, I can sleep tonight now. Thank you.
I'm going to 4. So, D, what's your final rating of the book? Like 2?
I'm probably still 3.5. But
Oh,
again,
yeah.
I'm only comparing it within the spectrum of Freida Mcfadden novels.
Yeah.
Like if I was to compare this with the book I mentioned earlier, the serial killer support group, this book would not even compare in that level of that book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the serial killer support group book that I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
my first time I sat down and read, I got so it had a moment where I was just like, okay, this just I got to suspend belief over this.
Mhm.
And then next thing I know, I'm 90 pages in, like, well, I don't want to eat dinner yet. I got it just sucked right in.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, with my favorite authors like that, I try to keep it within the canon of their work.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I love finding a favorite author. You know, you have something to look forward to all the time, especially a prolific one like Freida Mcfadden or, you know, a Stephen
3 books
King.
in a year and 2 short stories.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how they do it, but
Just
I
fun.
can't. You said you're a writer. Do you write stuff for fun, like, or for like do you write stories or?
I've done stories, working on a novel, and then I was also the 2016 Utah Poet of the Year.
Wow.
For the city of Utah.
Cool.
That's awesome. Wow,
Yeah.
D.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I have tried to write, but it's really hard. Like I just, you know.
It's sometimes it's like I can just sit and my fingers are aching because I can't stop. My fingers can't keep up with my brain, and then I'll have a great idea and I'll just sit and stare at my keyboard. Like, oh, okay. But the poetry is based off military experiences, anxiety, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's like one of those at home right in here projects. You live with it so much that when you have the opportunity to get it out and kind of purge it and do something with it, it was
cool. Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Great to have a creative outlet like that.
For sure.
Definitely.
All right, guys. So we've been on for about an hour and 10.
Okay.
Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to add?
I just want to, I loved it. I loved the whole experience of reading this. It was so much fun. And I'm looking forward to more from her. Like whatever I read, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. So yeah.
Definitely.
I understand why people like the book. I really do. It's a simple plot. I don't think she executed it as well compared to some of her other stuff, but it is, I mean, it's one of those that if you place yourself in that situation, how messed up the situation is, like you've invited this person to come live with you and it all goes bad. So I think it's that sense of almost like that, our voyeuristic nature is why I think people are so enthralled with this book.
Sure.
Picturing themselves going through the situation. Oh, what would I do? Well, I wouldn't have done that. So I think that's kind of what I've got when I watch some of the reviews and seen what people say about it. So
yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought if you're a Freida fan, I think you'll like it. Very consumable, digestible, fun. You want to read more, you'll finish it in a couple hours. So I enjoyed that. I do think it's not her best work. I wouldn't recommend this as the entry point to Freida, but I still enjoyed it and I had fun. And, a lot of times I'll rate things based on, did I have fun? And I did. And I did. And because it was a buddy read too, I think I had extra fun. So, you know what I mean? So a lot of that plays into me giving it a 4, but I enjoyed it and I would recommend it. I don't think it's her worst book,
Plus, when you're in the Freida Mcfadden ecosystem of books, you find yourself jumping ahead trying to see if you can guess where it's going. And to me, that's a lot of fun. Like, this author is going to throw you a red herring. It's going to throw it a plot twist. Can I find the clues? Can I guess it? Is it going to entertain me? And then that journey is what makes reading the book so fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think going in with an open mind and I had no expectations and I have nothing to compare it to other than the other 2 books I've read of hers. But it was great. So yeah, we should do this again next time for sure for the August release.
The Intruder comes out August 29th.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess we will be doing that one together again. Thank you guys.
Buddy, read a non-Freida Mcfadden book though.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of Freida Mcfadden marks.
We could do one in between that. How about that? We'll pick something and we'll commit to something we can read between that.
I am 100% on board.
Something totally different from Freida, maybe. That would be fun.
I think so.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much
Awesome.
to those of you who joined us for our live. We had a lot of fun. We hope you had a lot of fun as well. Thank you for joining us. And Dee and Michelle, I had a blast.
Thank you. Thanks,
It was
Isabel.
fun.
Thanks,
It was a
Dee.
lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Tell your executive producer he did a phenomenal job.
Did you hear? He's watching. He's watching. There, oh, there he is. There he is.
There he is.
Take a bow.
Thank
Take a bow.
All right,
Okay,
friends.
Hey, y'all have a good night.
Till next
thanks.
time. Bye,
Till next
everyone.
time. Good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.